I'm Eric Newton, and this is The Together Show. We all know relationships take work, but what is that work, and how do we do it? As a former divorce lawyer, I've watched thousands of couples break up firsthand. Having seen the worst in relationships, I decided to try to help couples stay together. So on this show, we talk to real couples and find out what love really looks like.
When she kissed me like that, that was a moment I knew that there was something special there. I don't think I was thinking marriage at that time. I think we were just developing a relationship that was going in that direction without really, us guys, we think about this and that, and they're thinking about, well, I wonder if he's going to kiss me tonight or whatever, and we're not thinking like that. We don't think that way.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Thanks for listening. If you like what we're up to here at Together, please consider donating any amount that you can easily afford to our crowdfunding campaign. We're on a mission to crush shame, as you may know, and every penny makes a huge difference at this point. You can find our campaign at patreon.com/together. That's patreon.com/together. And I'll put that link in our show notes. Thank you. Now on to the show. Today's episode is about a small-town Catholic courtship in the early 1960s. Living in our respective cultural bubbles, as we all do, we don't often consider how relationships are lived by those living right next door to us. And there's nothing shocking about this interview. Some, in fact, might consider the stories that we're about to hear to be perfectly normal, simplistic even. But for me, at least, this interview serves as a look at a kind of relationship structure that I just don't have very much experience with. And that may seem ironic to you because this is an interview with my very close aunt and uncle, Barb and Dave. But while we are family, they've lived a life that is utterly different from my own. And so I find their story very fascinating, and I hope you will too. Now, this was basically like interviewing my parents, so you'll have to forgive me if I don't hold their feet to the fire quite as much as I might have otherwise. But with that, let's go to our interview with Barb and Dave.
Barb's best friend was one of my girlfriends. And, of course, we had broke up, and I knew Barb, and I talked to her quite a bit. She was a good friend, and I'd tell her about some of my problems with, talk about dating or girl or whatever, and I was never really interested in dating her.
So she was more of a confidant.
Yeah, kind of. As the story goes, and I was always some contact with her and her family. Getting over with the with her family. Of course, she had 11 brothers and sisters and quite a group. But I came from a family of 4, and I was the youngest one, and everybody else was gone. Type of thing.
Oh man, that must have been crazy with all those kids everywhere.
I didn't think about it. I thought and it didn't work out that way intentionally. What had happened is I had graduated from high school, and I had like 3 different girlfriends, and I only had about $38 to my name. And she calls me, and she invites me to a prom.
Senior prom.
Senior prom, yeah. And, of course, I said yes. We went to that senior prom. Got all done with that, and I don't know if I was working then or not, but I had no money. I mean, I had money, but not. And I knew her well enough to go over and visit her, watch TV and eat popcorn and drink Coke or whatever, and that's how it all started. I'd go there, and surely enough, we started to develop a relationship. And I got to a point where I was with a friend of mine. We were shopping together in the store. And I looked over, I saw Barb over there, and she had a white sweatshirt on with pink polka dots. And I turned to my friend and I said, I'm going to marry her.
Were you Were you there with her, or was she just?
Oh, she was shopping with somebody else.
Did that
But
surprise you?
No, not really, because I think we had gone out before that, didn't we? Didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'd gone out. See, we had the popcorn and the Coke, and we started to go to some of the class events, but we never. Did we ever say we were going steady?
Mm-mm.
Never did say we were going steady. But the relationship grew there where I knew that she was going to be my wife. And she wasn't aware of it. I went and joined the Air Force.
How long before you told her?
Well, we were staying together. We were going steady then. And I joined the Air Force. And I joined the Air Force for specific reason to get through the training and get stationed at a station in the Air Force. And we were going to get married. She wasn't aware of that. She didn't even know that's why I went in the Air Force. Did you?
You didn't even know the plan?
I think you're forgetting some details that we did.
Okay, well, then
was
you
aware
fill
of.
in the details then.
He'd gone away to school. He forgot to mention that. He was going to thinking about being an engineer.
Milwaukee School of Engineering, that's correct. I did go there for...
But what we did was, I'm not, he did indeed tell me that he had thought this with his friend, but that was before was going to go away to school, I think. We did start going, we were exclusive. I remember an old boyfriend called and asked me for a date, and I said, no, I can't. No, I'm with David. The bottom line is what he doesn't realize or didn't realize at the time was I was praying from the time I was 7 years old for a husband.
Wow.
I asked God for a husband. I always wanted to be married. I always wanted to have children, which sounds kind of hard to believe, but it was really the truth. Now, did I know at 7 years old what I was asking for? Probably not. But I really did. I didn't want to be a nurse. I didn't want to be a teacher. I wanted to be married and have little babies. My folks had a huge family, and I thought that was a wonderful way to live your life. The only problem with this was if somebody wanted me to go out with them or wanted to get to know me, if I didn't want to marry them, they weren't interesting to me.
At all?
At all.
Right, because you had...
I was looking for a husband.
Yeah. Wow, that's
So it ruined my dating life. It really did. And it wasn't that I didn't go out with a couple of guys, because sometimes you'd have to test to see.
Yeah.
And I did, and but he was the one that I seemed to be the most attracted to. I don't think that I just automatically knew this, because I didn't.
I didn't either.
Now, when was this? What year was this, for some context?
Well, she graduated in 61,
Mm-hmm.
senior, and that's when she invited me to the prom, and that's where it pretty much started right there.
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
I think he pretty much sort of stopped dating other girls, and
Well, I didn't have any money.
that's true. But he did. He got a job before he, when he got out of. In those days, if you wanted a job, you could go get a job, and he got a job. But he realized that if he wanted to get married, he had to have a steady job. He had to have a career someplace, and so he decided to go into the military.
And I really didn't think that much about it.
Yeah.
But he didn't ask me.
I
if
didn't
I
ask
wanted to
her.
go in the-
I thought, well, I'd go in the service, and I really didn't realize that she didn't realize that that's why I went in the
He
service.
just so surprised I couldn't read his
Well,
mind
they had
yet.
a draft then, too, and I didn't want to get drafted in anything. I wanted to go in the Air Force.
He wanted to go where he wanted to go.
Yeah.
So he just came and told me, and one of the things that my folks taught us always was to have common sense.
Yeah.
And he said he was going to do this so that we could get married. So he must have decided we weren't engaged or anything because we didn't have any money, or he didn't have any money.
Well,
We were young.
We really were smirting we really
Well, you must have been,
liked
what,
each other.
17 and 18 or something in that
No,
range?
remember now, I'd graduated from high school,
Oh,
so I
yeah.
was 18, and he is almost 2 years older than I am.
Okay. All right.
So all the stuff he was talking about before really happened before we were
So it was,
couple,
It was almost a proposal.
except that we never
Except
gently
we never
reached.
finalized it, or did we?
Well, we liked each other a lot, and I knew he was interested in marrying me, but he told me he was going to go in the Air Force so we could get married. It wasn't like we hadn't talked about or thought about being together. It was inevitable. It was sensible. It was reasonable. because we genuinely liked each other. And I had found, after checking him out, because I did check him out, I had all kinds. I remember watching him one day. He'd come to see me, being kind to a dog that had wandered in the yard.
Yeah.
And I hadn't realized it, but I had always thought, don't ever marry a man who wasn't fond of animals, wasn't kind to animals. And I watched him with my younger siblings. He was kind to my siblings. He didn't put them down. He didn't tell them to go away. He could have. I mean, I'd been around people that didn't want to be bothered with that nonsense, But so I had my tests, whatever they were, and he passed all of them. So when he said he wanted to go in the Air Force so he could get married, I thought, well, that's logical. He does need a good job.
This developed in such a way that, like she prayed to God for a good husband, And I'm just going, da, 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 da. I'm just moving along.
So I tell him, Eric, he had no chance.
And one night when I was leaving, she kissed me on the back of the ear there.
Well, we hadn't kissed by this time, but this was all a little bit before that.
We had kissed before that, but was that the first time? She kissed me on the back of the ear here. And it might as well have been a triple hook right in my caught me right here in the neck. Because after that kiss, everything started to accelerate.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
She asked you to the prom, and she kissed you the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She put in both the hooks, really.
I did.
Well,
He
it was
was
a
the
little
answer
bit
to my
later
prayer.
on, I think, after
It
the
wasn't
prom.
like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It was over a period of
6 months.
6, 7 months.
6, 7
These little
months.
things just sort of kept happening.
So
And it kept growing and growing.
Wow. That was 6 months between the prom and that moment when
Approximately.
Yeah. So it wasn't the kiss on prom night that did it.
No, he didn't get kissed on prom night.
Did he get his hand held?
Didn't we go down the beach? I thought we went down the beach.
We did. We went to the beach after the prom.
Beautiful down the beach.
And then I had to kiss you before that.
I think you had. But that one kiss behind the ear, that was...
That might have gotten him, but that wasn't my moment.
That was mine.
I didn't have that was his.
Well, when you say what moment do you mean? It wasn't your moment of.
Well, he says that he
That was my moment.
realized that he knew then that I was the person that he wanted.
Well, I wouldn't say I knew. It's just that's the direction it was going, whether I knew it or not. I mean, she's got me hooked. I'm going da-da-da, and she's pulling me in, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm going with it, okay?
Actually, the Lord was pulling you in.
Yeah, whatever.
Because he was directing traffic. I never kissed a boy before.
Yeah.
I mean, I had never initiated a kiss. I'd kissed a couple boys before, but
But I'm still trying to understand the moment concept. When you say that was his moment, you mean that was the moment that Dave knew.
When she kissed me like that, that was the moment I knew that there was something special there. I don't think I was thinking marriage at that time.
no, I think we were too young.
I think we were just developing a relationship that was going in that direction without really, us guys, we think about this and that, and they're thinking about, well, I wonder if he's going to kiss me tonight or whatever, and we're not thinking like that. We don't think that way, do we?
I don't know. It's been too long for me since those days.
This is kind of hard to remember.
But
But it just fell in place.
then for you, okay. But she said that her moment was different. What was your moment?
I don't think I actually had a moment. I really don't. Maybe I realized I had made up my mind when he said he was going to go in the Air Force so we could get married.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's logical.
You made your
I
decision.
can't even remember telling you that.
I was a little surprised that he hadn't informed me before he joined the Air Force.
Yeah.
Once again, it's common sense we had. And besides, remember, the man does do the leading in a relationship, particularly in our generation.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Dating back then, if you liked somebody, you did something about it.
Well, but
You don't.
I kissed him.
she kissed you.
Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is, when you're courting, and when we were going to high school and courting, if you liked somebody, you went to that person, you talked to them and said, hey, how about a date? You didn't have 3 or 4 people to try to figure out whether they like you or not, like they do now or whatever.
Who knows?
You know, you
And
just
you weren't going through your boyfriends and girlfriends.
no, you found somebody like you went after them, you know, and you asked them out. You
Yeah.
didn't have to, didn't anybody have to talk to me or ask for a date, you know, see if they, you know, you just did it, you know.
Well, so what happened during the military? How long were you gone?
Well, I was gone, well, 4 years, okay? And what's interesting about this is that I went to boot camp, Lackland Air Force Base, and from there, I think that was like 8 weeks or whatever. And then from there, I went to Colorado,
By Denver, wasn't it?
Denver, Colorado, to Lowry. I think it was Lowry Air Force Base.
Right. Yeah.
Where they had a training. And I got the particular program I got in was camera repair. So I had 36 weeks
On airplanes.
Yeah, right.
on
of course,
airplanes and cameras, everything, photography and the whole bit.
Yeah.
So I get through that course, and there was a group of about maybe 16 of us that were graduated from that course. And you know, I was hoping to get an assignment in the United States or whatever, and you know, we could get married. You know, I'd get out of that. We'd get married. I'd go to my next station. Okay. So it just so happens that they made us drew assignments out of a hat. And one of the people there was Jewish, and he got Libya, Africa. And even back then they were saying, well, the Jews don't get along with the Arabs. It'd be bad to send a Jewish person there. And I don't know how they worked it out, but there was 3 of us. They're going to have 3 of us draw over again, and I was one of them. And and some of them had England. Oh, I'm glad they're going to. Somebody had Germany. Oh, I'm glad they're going to. Somebody had Oklahoma. Oh, I'm stateside, you know, and they were all excited. And they were going to make us 3 draw all over again. I said, just a minute. You know, and what I was going to have them do was have us all draw over again, maybe have all blanks and have somebody pull out, Libya. But they made everybody draw over again. They threw everything back in the hat. Everybody had to draw over again. So the guy at Oklahoma ended up in Germany. A guy in Germany. Oh, they were furious. They were upset with that. And I still got Libya, Africa.
Well, I guess that was meant to be.
So, and I was going to be there for 18 months in Libya, Africa. And it's not a place where you bring family.
Besides, you wouldn't have had enough rank.
Even enough rank or
right.
anything.
Yeah.
So I had to call her on the phone, told her what happened, and be 18 months before we get married. And we both bawled over the phone. Cried. It was hard. It was heartbreaking.
Yeah. Had you seen her at all since
He
you
came
departed?
home after boot camp,
Yeah, the boot camp. He had a boot camp break,
and then he was going to be able to come home when he got done with his schooling, but he had found out that he was going to Libya,
they're
Africa.
going to go on for 18 months.
We really would have gotten married,
We weren't engaged yet. They had not given her a ring yet.
But
we were engaged.
But you were engaged. You weren't.
We're
it's not like you were-
engaged, but I haven't.
Right, that's right. He brought that home. He got me a ring when
I-
he got done with school, didn't you?
No.
And right
Was it
on.
when I was done with school, or wasn't it? Okay, when I got done with school, I brought your ring. Okay. So we were engaged then.
An official engagement.
Yeah. Did you get down on your knee?
Hmm?
Did you get down on your knee and do the whole?
I don't remember.
I hate to tell you this, but I don't remember either.
Yeah.
Evidently not. That's all I can think to say. 'Cause
I remember asking your father.
I don't think you did.
I did. I asked your father.
Oh, well, then you didn't share that with me.
What did Grandpa
Yeah.
say? How did he do? How did he respond?
I don't remember.
Oh, that's a slice of history I'd love to know.
I don't remember.
Well, David had been around long enough, so my
Yeah,
dad
they
knew what
knew
kind of
me.
a man he was.
Yeah.
In fact, her mother's pretty smart. She knew that. What did your mother say about me?
She told me maybe one or two times after David had come over, and while we weren't dating or anything, she said to me, that young man's going to be coming around here one of these days for seriously. And well, see, that was just another sign for me that
told
I wasn't my prayers were being answered.
Right.
The direction was, she was wiser, and I didn't have any experience with boys because I didn't date anybody really, other than a few going outs with people.
She'd seen it plenty of times, but on the other hand, now for some more context, you're the oldest daughter
Right.
of
My mother,
11 kids, right?
My mother was, if there was Michael Jacksons in mothers, she was Michael Jackson. Truly, a remarkable, fantastic, wonderful woman. Super mom. Super mom. And most of my brothers and sisters would agree with me.
Oh, I think they all would. Yeah, everybody talks about her that way. I wish I got to meet her. Well, so then what happened? The whole station.
Well, let me go through the Air Force.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of interesting. They have a sponsor that meets you at the air when you come to the base. They show you where you're going to work and all this stuff, and it's usually somebody that's working in that particular unit that you're going to be repairing cameras, and they've assigned me to a full photography shop where the guys that come out and take pictures and stuff, and I was in charge of keeping the cameras repaired and all that. But my sponsor that showed me around, and I told him what happened to me. He says, "That's funny." He says, "I'm Jewish." He was Jewish.
It didn't matter for his group.
No, So I thought that was interesting. So I worked there on the base. It was called Bingo, the
You did a
Airmen's
job.
Club. Worked a cashier at the NCO Club, and
Anything to make money so we could save
and I
them.
took pictures of the high school year for their albums for pictures and things like that. And I was good photographer. In fact, they were having this contest, and that particular night I had to stay 24 hours in that facility. I had to stay. It was my turn to stay there all night in that facility in case there was a call come in or whatever.
This is all in Africa?
Yeah, Libya, Africa. Willis Air Force Base. And they had a contest. Everybody was putting their pictures in. And we got these labs, and we'd make pictures like this or whatever. And I was doing kind of gray and black type pictures. And anyway, I had two pictures I liked, and I put them in there. I took first and second place.
That's it.
And I didn't, all I thought, well, I like these two pictures, and I modeled them just like everybody else did. I sent them down there. I got first and second place.
That's good.
Got a transistor radio was one of them. I forget what the other gift was, but a transistor radio was, and the guys couldn't believe it. But all that but other things I was doing, and I was repairing cameras too for movie cameras. Civilians would come in with cameras, and I'd fix them for them and stuff. So I had that business going. I saved all my leave time, cumulative leave time, because I wanted to take 30 days to come visit her.
Oh, yeah.
So I could have gone to Malta. I could have gone to Italy. There are other trips that I could have taken. I didn't.
I cast a spell on him.
You sure
And he
did.
became very reasonable.
It was that ear kiss did the whole thing.
Yeah. And the other thing we did before we left, I bought 2 recorders down at the Walgreens. Walgreens at that time had electronic stuff. They'd have radios and recorders and things like that. And I bought 2 duplicate recorders, reel to reel duplicate. And I gave her one, and I took one, and we'd send these tapes back and forth.
Which you can imagine how advanced that was in those days.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh,
And I'm
Actually, what he
wondering,
really did was hate to write letters, and he could talk instead.
So we sent these tapes back and forth, and I'd listen to her tapes. Sometimes I get 2 or 3 because of the mail system, and sometimes it was pretty good, though, wasn't it?
do you still have those?
No, I don't. You didn't save them either. Huh?
What we did was record on top of them.
Yeah,
there.
we
Let's be
recorded on top
practical.
of
We're
them and
practical people.
You are practical
Yeah.
people.
And that was great. That was great. And you called me once, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. One thing she did, she sent me I had this notebook or this picture album. And I had pictures on one side, and all the cards that she sent me, I'd put on the other side. And I had this all set up there, and I really liked it. And I brought that home, and she had,
We were married, and after about a year, I decided that wasn't anything I'd ever want anybody else to see, and I destroyed it.
yeah,
All the
all the
postcards?
cards.
Why? Because it was too
Too
sentimental?
intimate.
Yeah.
Too intimate. And I didn't ask permission. I remember
He didn't
they,
ask my permission.
they were mine.
And,
He'd given them to me.
and I think I forgave her for that, but I still remember it.
What did you do when you found out?
I wasn't. I just moved on. Well, I don't remember.
One of the things David is it isn't that he hides his feelings. He let me know he was really disappointed and hurt, but he does not hold a grudge.
No, can't.
He doesn't remind me of it. Once in a while, he'll tease me a little bit about it, having done it and devastated him, letting me know that he hasn't forgotten, but he doesn't tell other people.
No, it's the first time I thought about it in a long time.
But I really did hurt him.
But we had the pictures and we had the tapes going back and forth. And I spent those 30 days with you, didn't I?
Practically in my pocket, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing was, the leaving was hard. When I had to get up and leave to go to the technical school. Then I get out of the technical school, come home, then have to leave to go, the 18 months to Libya. It's just heartbreaking when you have to break up like that.
And then you came back for a 30-day stay and then had to go
Then you
again.
have to go back again.
Yeah, that must have been hard.
I remember being in some airports where guys and their wives were there, and they were getting on aircraft, and they would just be crying their eyes out and
Yeah.
stuff, seeing that plane take off and knowing they're not going to see him for months.
Yeah.
Just heart-tearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still curious about the burning of or however you destroyed those cards. So he said that he was upset, but then he let it go because that's his way. How did you feel knowing that you'd made him upset or that you'd hurt him?
I was sorry I made him upset, but I knew I'd made the correct decision.
As long as she's happy,
I really did. I did not. I thought I was being wiser than he was.
Do you still?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She is. She's wise.
Yeah, your wisdom is rooted in a kind of, like you were saying, practicality,
Mm-hmm.
pragmatism. Where do you think that comes from?
My mother.
Do you think you channel
And my
her?
dad, too, by the way. I mean, neither one of these people were anybody that you could get mad at your mother and father, but there was absolutely no justification for thinking of them as incapable of realizing where you were coming from. They were right, and I knew they were right. You can't argue with what's correct and what's right and what's kind and what's decent and what is expected of you, not only by your parents, but of God. When you're absolutely positive that you're doing what God wants you to do, not that he's talking to me or anything, but it's just so logical. I didn't like having to mind my parents, but I did it because they were correct, and I somehow knew they were correct. So I did.
Were they always?
Unfortunately, yes. Yeah. I remember watching my mother and father. I remember going to, my dad worked out of town in Oscoda, and he asked me to go with him one summer, and I kept house for him, and I also painted the house we were in because I had time on my hands. He taught me how to paint. And we were coming home. He was across the state. We're coming home, and it was after midnight, and he came to I was so exhausted. I couldn't go to sleep in the car for some reason. And probably 15, wasn't able to drive or anything yet. And I thought to myself, I'm going to watch and see if he stops at that stop sign. Middle of the night, there wasn't one other car on the road. Or it was a stoplight. And I didn't want him to stop because I was so tired. I just wanted to go home and get in my own bed. And he stopped. But don't think that I wasn't watching him. I want to see if he behaved, if he acted like because I watched my mother to see if she did. But I had never spent that kind of time with my father because he mostly worked out of town. He stopped at that stop sign, or stoplight.
And you were asleep? Or he thought you were asleep?
And I don't have a clue whether he knew I was awake or not. The bottom line was the man, if he said don't do something, he followed that rule or regulation or that commandment like he was telling us we had to do. I never caught him out, never caught him or my mother out. And kids watch to see whether or not their parents do what they tell you to do.
Do you think you lived up to that standard yourself as a parent?
To the best of my ability. I mean, I'm not without stupidity or error.
But neither were they. I mean, they're still human.
Anything that I could, I know my brothers and sisters were watching too because we've had conversations.
Yeah, I've heard these conversations too. But they were human. I mean, they had to have challenges.
If they did, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I saw my mother and father quarrel once. And it had nothing to do with nothing. My dad came home very late from work. My mother would always have something prepared for him or she'd have saved food. But he came in so late and he told her he was hungry. And she asked him what he wanted to eat and she could make a hamburger or something like that. And he said, it was abrupt with her.
Yeah.
And she started to cry. And she took the hamburger that she had in her hands, like a couple pounds, and she pushed it at him towards his chest, and he caught it like this. And she turned away from him and was crying. I think I was the only one that was witnessing this. And he took that hamburger. I don't think he fixed anything for himself. Not that he wasn't capable. But he knew he had wounded her. That's the only time I ever saw them.
What did he do?
I left the room. My mother she's not crying out loud. I saw little tears coming down her face. I left the room.
You told me this story, but you said that they had made plans to go to dinner that night, and she was all dressed.
that was a whole different.
That was a different one.
Mm-hmm, whole different thing.
Oh, okay.
My dad, due to his work, which was mostly out of town, because he worked in construction, he frequently didn't show up when he thought he was going to be able to show up.
Yeah.
So he let my mom down, but he did other nice things that were. He let a woman down. A woman has finer feelings. I don't think he even thought about it till he got home and realized that he had forgot about the party they were supposed to attend or whatever. Yeah, he hurt her sometimes.
How did he make up for that?
He was always kind. He was kind to my brothers and sisters and me. When he was home, he paid attention to us. They just acted like parents in my mind.
Yeah.
They talked softly. They didn't fight. They didn't scream. They didn't. My dad would be abrupt. My dad would say something about being mad because the boys, for example, hadn't raked the leaves up, and my mother would reason with him. And you could tell that they had disagreements, but you didn't see any action in the field. You know, the kid, and like I said before, I was watching all the time. They seemed to resolve it. I realized it wasn't my business, it wasn't my relationship, and I just expected them to work it out after a certain number of years, like I had always seen them do.
Yeah. What were your quarrels and disputes like?
Same as anything else, like him being terribly upset because I had destroyed those things. I mean, he was. David isn't one of these people that has dramatic gestures, or I saw it on his face, that I had really hurt him. To tell you the honest goodness truth, there was several remarkable things about him. I only had my father as a model. One of the things I'd say to David is, we need to put some blinds up in this window, first apartment or whatever. Within a day, he had the blinds and he's putting them up. My father never moved that fast. He told me, I never had this before in my life. He had done something. I asked him not to do that again. I hurt my feelings, and he said, "I'm sorry." I never heard anybody say "I'm sorry" in my family.
Oh, Grandpa didn't apologize?
No,
for
I
the
don't
thing?
think there wasn't that kind of thing. He corrected it by his continuous behavior. But David said, "I'm sorry." I mean, I was just floored.
Wow.
Those two things, that he would tell me he was sorry, probably half the time not even knowing quite what he'd done, because once again, guys don't catch some of the small stuff that women find very, very important. And he would, to the best of his ability, correct his behavior so that it wouldn't happen again.
Yeah, we had one occasion, I don't know why or what, but I pushed her away with my arm, and she started to cry, and I told you I was sorry, and I never did that again.
No. And I don't remember what that was even
I don't know
about.
what it was about either.
And it was just but there was enough of emotion going on that he was pushing me away from him.
He said, "You pushed me away." And I just folded up, and I told her I was sorry. That never happened again.
He truly was a better communicator than my father was. David was, yes. He really was with everybody, but particularly with me.
Yeah, Grandpa was a strong, silent type, really, wasn't he?
Yeah. I don't think his generation had conversations with women. Now, he and my mother, I'm sure they did.
They must
Had
have.
to collaborate on a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't something that was as common as it is today.
Yeah. But the two of you communicated a lot more.
Well, I just know more about our communication. I'm not, while you watch your parents, you don't live with your parents.
Yeah.
You're not brought into their relationship. It's not your business. You're their child. You're not their compatriot or their equal.
I'm curious about what was the most challenging thing the two of you faced in those early days of marriage. Or heck, in the whole marriage at all, really, now that I think about it. It doesn't have to be the early days. I'm curious what kind of challenges you faced.
I don't know what David's going to answer you with, but I had no challenges.
I had no challenges either.
He-
We've been on a honeymoon since we got married. Really.
He could
I
see
never
my
went through a
point.
crisis, middle age crisis. What the hell's that? Never, ever.
We just work stuff out.
Yeah.
But stuff. You work stuff out, but that means there's stuff.
But the stuff was not.
It wasn't a challenge.
It wasn't a challenge.
It was how
and
to
it-
figure.
and it wasn't frustrating. It wasn't arguing back and forth. It's like the time when after we were married and we had 2 kids, maybe 3 kids. We were living in this one house, and I'd go to work and come home, and she'd be fixing dinner. I don't know why, had to go in the backyard and do a project. And I would get kind of ticked off because I wanted to do some more, and she's calling me in to eat. So I'd go in and eat. Not ticked off, but, gee, I'd like to get this done. I'd go in and eat. And I don't know how long. This didn't go on very long. And And I don't know if I said something to her about, gee, I'd like to get this done. She says, honey, says, here I am fixing dinner. I got 3 kids all hanging all over me, and And I thought about that. So next time I came home, no project outside. I took the 3 kids outside and we played. And that made a lot of difference in our relationship right there. I played with those kids and she's able to make the meals. And we always shared in doing the dishes and stuff and all the other routines. But that was a big change.
Yeah, I think you just get wiser.
You get wiser.
How you can help each other, so that there is no tension.
And there was no tension.
You're a couple rather than an individual.
You're one.
He would figure stuff out, and evidently I figured stuff out for him. You find out what your spouse's needs are. You know, he recognized I would be starting to do the dishes, and he would come and say he'll finish the dishes, or he'd tell me that I could just go. Why don't you just go in the bedroom, shut the door, and lay down and read a book or something? And he did this with enough regular. He would give me. I'd say to him, I need a day off, and so he'd take care of the kids for the day, and I'd just leave the house. I didn't tell him where I was going, what I was going to do, because I didn't know what I was going to do. I wasn't looking for a girlfriend. I just needed to be by myself. He took care of stuff like he heard me.
Yeah.
Whatever it was because I was a stay-at-home mom, I wanted children. I had children. He helped me take care of the babies. You know, the man worked.
Change. You're not a real man until you take a dirty diaper and you rinse out the crap. At that time, we had all cloth diapers, you know. You're not a real man unless you do that stuff, you know.
In fact, he's reminding me, I saw him. You had to clean a diaper out. You had to get rid of the bulk in the toilet before you put it in a diaper pail.
That's what it is, poop.
And he is literally gagging over this toilet. He's going, well, once you've done it a couple times, it's no big deal anymore.
get used to
It's
it.
It's like cleaning up vomit after a child.
Yeah.
You know, we were poor. We didn't have any money. I remember him coming home from work and saying we're going to start saving money, and I thought, how can we save money? We don't have enough money to save. But he put it into his thing, and we just did without that hunk of money. You know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought to save money. He thought to save money.
I, on my own, I saved $20. I had $20. It's winter time. When the kids come home, somebody tore his sleeve right off his winter coat, ripped his sleeve right off. So there's $20.
Those are
gone.
$20.
Those are the kind of things that parents face all the time, though.
Yeah.
And I remember time getting in a car by myself. I wanted to go somewhere and do something. And I started to cry because I realized I didn't have the money to do it. And I turned around and come home. You know, there are times.
You know, I think it was harder for him to be without money than it was me, because he always worked. And his parents were not. His mother was not wealthy. She was a single parent. He had a job most of the time, doing something. He earned his own money. And when he got married, he found out he didn't have his own money anymore.
Yeah.
It was our money.
It's our money. It's always our money.
I remember one time, Eric, he wanted to have a parakeet. Well, I don't like. They were messy and dirty. We had those at home. And he said to me, when I get my own room, I'm going to put a bird in. I said, David, you'll never have your own room again. Well, he just laughs. He gets it. And he starts laughing, you know. And I mean, it was so hilarious.
When was that? Was that real early
That
on?
was pretty early. Uh-huh.
When I get my own room.
Mm-hmm.
You're never going to have your own room,
You're never
buddy.
going to have your own room again. That was an automatic answer that he would have said to me before we were married.
Yeah.
You know. And I'm sure he did that to me. I just remember the funny stuff. And
Yeah.
he also has a fantastic sense of humor.
Yeah.
You
And
know.
that's always been true. David's uncle was the goofball uncle for sure. Well, all right. So I really love this, and I'm trying to fit it into the framework that I've always had around, I guess, emotions in couples. And I love what you said about how you become one.
That's the only way it works.
Yeah. That's something, whenever I officiate a wedding, that I always, it's always magical for me, is observing this transitional moment from two individuals to a new maybe a third entity, this thing called a marriage, or maybe they merge, but there's this moment of transition. I love standing up close to that. And I love hearing you talk about it. But I read a lot of the literature on relationship success, like the research from the therapeutic community. And one of the things that is often written about is conflict, of course, right? Because that's who's coming into a therapist's office, is people having conflict. But essentially what the literature seems to say is that conflict is inevitable. Conflict is inevitable. But what you do with it is different from couple to couple. In some couples, it turns into blowout fights. And actually, for some couples, blowout fights are healthy. Because it's how they
We never, ever, never.
And for some couples, conflict gets repressed, which isn't, as far as the literature is concerned, healthy. And some couples have a way of kind of transmuting it into something else that creates maybe more depth in their relationship. And you guys talk about it like conflict doesn't happen, but you also kind of talk about it like it does. And I'm just trying to find out I'm just trying to get my bearings on it. I mean, you've got to have those feelings sometimes. Those uncomfortable feelings. You're shaking your head no. Maybe I'm just crazy. I mean,
no, you have to realize that Barb and I were kind of naive about conflicts and problems that other people are having. We thought everybody had it as good as we had.
Yeah, we did. We truly did. Never crossed our minds.
It never crossed our mind that people were having all the problems you're talking about in that. Never crossed our minds. We thought everybody was just as happy as we were.
We just thought they were like us.
Like us.
We didn't think of ourselves
And then
as
we
happy.
find out these conflicts and all this other stuff, and we can't believe
what
it.
What you're looking into, we were so naive.
Well,
we began to realize that is what people were going through.
What I think it is that there's people that think too much. Their
true.
mind's going all the time. And they're thinking this, and they're thinking that, and they're thinking ahead, and they're making conclusions already that 9 out of 10 times isn't going on, and besides, that conclusion is going to be bad for them. They're just thinking too much. They've got to stop thinking too much. I think that's part of it. They got all this going on in their mind, and anything that interferes with what's going on in their mind, they don't like that. Or they want it this way. It boils down to, I think, person wants to do when he wants to do it, whether he's married or not, type of thing.
well, all right. So I'm curious then about that moment where you wanted to do a thing. You started driving out the driveway and realized you didn't have enough money, started crying, came back.
And come back, right. And she wasn't even aware of that, and I didn't tell anybody that.
He didn't tell me that for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But but that feeling, I can see what you're saying. If you thought about it too much, you could have started then feeling
Oh, you can
resentment
get depressed, and you can go on from there being so depressed that you can't even relate to, or be angry, or you can take it out on your wife or take it out on your kids. That's what some people do. They take it out. If we weren't married, or if we're married, and if you didn't do that or that, we would have money, type of thing. And there was when it came to money and that, we were pretty up front with the money as far as where it was going and how it was being used.
And what did you do with it instead? You were sad and cried.
I just come back home and accept the way it is and know it's going to be better. I can't really tell you when I came back and that. It was just a moment and it was over with.
Well, I'm almost wondering if it's because there's a bigger context.
Yeah, there's something bigger involved in our relationship.
Barbara, you're looking thoughtful.
Well, see, once again, I'm thinking about what my folks always did. I could tell they didn't agree on everything all the time, but what they did was they were taught to make the best of things.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. You didn't have any money, so you found out ways you could have entertainment and fun that you could afford. We certainly had enough food. We had a roof over our head. We had adequate clothing.
All the things that you need.
We didn't have the frou. The basic stuff. You had the basic stuff.
And we had each other. We
Yes.
had a wonder,
Yeah. And you guys had decided to get into this relationship. Now, you couldn't have known what the challenges that
We didn't
whatever
look
they
down the
would've
road. Why
been.
look down the road? I mean, we're
Well,
going
we-
day by day with what
we were
have
we were too
and enjoying it.
dumb to look down the road.
Yeah, if you, like I say, you think too much about it. You keep thinking this could be this way, it could be that way. If I only did this and that, and people stay up all night thinking, you just go to bed, go to sleep.
Well, that's all for our interview with Barb and Dave, folks. Thanks for joining. If you liked what you heard on our show today, please subscribe to us on iTunes. It makes a big difference when you do that. And please also consider donating to our Patreon campaign. You can find our campaign at patreon.com/together. That's patreon.com/together. If you have any questions or comments, or if you'd like to be on the show, please reach out via one of our platforms. You can find our website at www.together.guide. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/togethershow. Twitter and Instagram are both at @together_show, or you can email me at host@together.guide. Our producer is Charlene Goto. Our web designer is Courtney Munna. Our art director is Aubrey Pick. Thanks once again to my guests, my aunt and uncle Barb and Dave. Guys, I really appreciate you being the first ones to have the courage to do it. Maybe everybody else will too. That's all for today, folks. See you next time.